Level 1, The Fish. Local name, new arrival/unaffiliated. Age, 21. Income, $0. Level 1. The Fish. You're 21 years old and you just made the worst mistake of your life by surviving the one before it. Armed robbery. A gas station in Odessa, Texas. You needed $200 and a moment of bad judgment turned into a felony with a weapon enhancement. 7 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You didn't even get the $200. The clerk hit the panic button before you cleared the door. Huntsville Unit. The Walls. One of the oldest prisons in America, built in 1849, and it feels like it. Stone and iron and a weight in the air that isn't humidity, though it's also humidity. Intake takes 6 hours. They strip you down to your identity and rebuild you as a number. You get a white uniform, TDCJ issues white, not orange, which surprises you, a toothbrush, a pair of boots 2 sizes too wide. A CO walks you through orientation while staring at a clipboard. No eye contact. You are paperwork. The cell block smells like sweat and pine sol and something underneath both that you will never be able to name but will recognize for the rest of your life. You find your bunk. Bottom tier, cell 14. Your cellmate is a 40-year-old man named Pruitt who has been inside for 11 years and greets you by not looking up from his book. You learn later that this is the highest form of respect available on your first day. Looking up means you're deciding something. Not looking up means you're not a threat and you're not threatened. You lie on your bunk and stare at the underside of Pruitt's mattress. The yard happens the next morning. You understood, growing up in West Texas, that certain places had rules that nobody wrote down. Your high school had them. Your neighborhood had them. You understood the geography of belonging, of who stood where, of what patches of ground cost what to stand on. Prison is that, compressed to its absolute essence. The white inmates cluster near the northeast wall. Some of them have tattoos you recognize immediately because you are from a place where you have seen them before, shamrocks, lightning bolts, the letters AB worked into larger designs. The Aryan Brotherhood. The brand. You knew the name before you knew what it meant. In certain parts of Texas, it's ambient. You don't approach them. You're not stupid. You find a corner of concrete that belongs to no one and you stand in it and you watch. An older man named Cruz drifts past you sometime around the 3rd hour. He doesn't stop. He doesn't look at you. But as he passes he says, quietly, words only you can hear. You got people? You don't answer because you don't know the right answer. He's already past you. That night, Pruitt, who has still barely spoken, puts down his book and says, that was an evaluation. Cruz runs the brand on this unit. When he asks if you got people, the answer he's looking for isn't about family. You ask what the answer should have been. Pruitt looks at you for a long moment. Depends on what you want your life in here to look like, he says. Then he opens the book again. You lie awake for 4 hours. You think about 7 years. You think about how long 7 years is and how much can happen in 7 years and whether the person who walks out at the end of it will recognize the one lying here right now. You don't know yet. But you have a feeling you're about to find out. Level 2, The Wood. Local name, Peckerwood/Associate. Age, 22. Income, protection. No cash. Level 2. The Wood. 3 weeks in. You haven't been touched. That's not nothing. It's not because you're frightening. It's because Cruz said something to someone and the word moved through the unit the way words move in here, without being spoken, through the specific posture of men who know things and the specific posture of men who know that those men know things. You haven't agreed to anything. You haven't been asked to agree to anything. You exist in a provisional space that has a name here, Wood. Short for Peckerwood. The white working-class prison population that orbits the brand without belonging to it. Associates. Prospects in everything but name. The outer atmosphere of a small, very dense star. Cruz sits across from you at a table in the dayroom on a Tuesday afternoon. He has a cup of coffee he doesn't drink and a copy of a Louis L'Amour paperback he doesn't open. These are props. They provide a reason to be sitting here that doesn't look like what it is. He talks for 12 minutes. He never raises his voice above a conversational level. What he says is this. You're going to be inside for a long time. Not a long time like waiting for a bus. A long time like a different life. The question isn't how you get through it. The question is who you are when you come out the other side. Men who come in alone and stay alone come out alone. Men who come in and find brothers come out with something that travels with them. He pauses. Drinks the coffee he didn't want. There's no halfway here. You're in or you're adjacent. Adjacent means you get some of the protection and none of the standing. In means you get everything. It also means everything you do reflects on the family and everything the family does reflects on you. Permanently. He stands up. He says, think about it. But don't think too long. He walks away. You spend 4 days thinking about it. In those 4 days you watch a man on the far side of the yard get beaten badly enough to go to the infirmary over a debt of 3 packs of cigarettes. You watch the brand's men handle a dispute between 2 of their associates so cleanly and finally that no violence is needed at all, just the certainty of it. You watch how space organizes itself around certain men. How the yard bends toward its centers of gravity. You find Cruz on the 5th day. You tell him you're in. He nods. That's all. You expected something more than a nod. You don't get it. Later you understand that the nod was the something more. Every transaction in here is conducted at minimum visible cost. Expressiveness is a luxury. The nod means, correct decision, acknowledged, filed. Welcome. Everything else will follow. The first thing that follows is a job. A man on C block owes money. Small amount. He's been given 2 extensions. You and another wood named Tolliver are going to go remind him that extensions expire. You walk to C block. You find the man. He's young, younger than you, which surprises you. He sees you coming. His face does something complicated. You don't hit him. You stand close enough that he can feel the decision and say, tomorrow morning. That's what Cruz told you to say. Just those 2 words. He pays the next morning. Full amount, plus. You walk back to your unit. Tolliver claps you on the shoulder. You have done your first thing. You will do many more things before they decide what you are. That process has no timeline and no rubric. There is no test you can study for. There is only the accumulation of moments in which you were reliable or you weren't. You intend to be reliable. You don't examine what reliability requires in this place. Not yet. Level 3, the made member. Local name, patched/the brand. Age, 24. Income, $300 to $600 per month prison economy. Level 3. The brand. 2 years in. You have done enough things. The counting was never announced. Nobody told you there was a threshold or what it was. You just kept being reliable and one morning Cruz told you to come to the laundry room during the 2nd shift, and in the laundry room there were 6 men, and you understood what the meeting was. The patch comes in stages. You don't get a piece of paper or a ceremony with oaths. What you get is a moment of collective acknowledgement from men whose acknowledgement costs something, and then a tattoo that a member named Hargrove does in a cell using equipment that has been constructed, cleaned, and used dozens of times before you. The shamrock over your heart takes 2 sessions. The work is precise. Hargrove is an artist in a context that does not have much use for artists, and he brings to this work a focus and care that makes the experience feel more significant than you expected. The ink goes in and doesn't come out. That is the point. You are 24 years old and you have made a decision that is older than decisions, the oldest kind. You have chosen a tribe, and the tribe has chosen you back, and the mark on your chest is the document of it. Permanent and public. The brand is not a secret society. The tattoos are the point. The visibility is the point. The message is intended to be received by everyone who sees it for the rest of your life. Every job interview. Every police encounter. Every first date, if first dates remain a thing available to you, which is not guaranteed. You understand this. You have understood it since Pruitt explained the yard to you on night 3. Your income now flows from the unit's operation. The brand taxes the white prison economy, drugs, gambling, debt, labor, and the revenue distributes upward and partially back down to working members. You receive roughly $300 to $600 monthly in commissary value. Soups, coffee, hygiene items, the currency of the inside. It doesn't sound like much. In here, it's the difference between comfort and misery. Your responsibility has expanded. You manage a roster of 8 woods on your unit. You collect their tribute, settle their disputes, and are accountable for their behavior to the shot caller above you, a taciturn man named Reese who communicates primarily through his eyes. One of your woods starts using his own product. This is the oldest problem and it has only one solution, and the solution is not kind. You handle it one afternoon in an exercise yard blind spot. Afterward, the wood checks into protective custody. He snitches himself out to get off the unit, which is its own kind of solution and costs him everything that matters in here but saves him from worse. Reese finds you later. He says, "You should have caught it earlier." He's right. You file the lesson. Your father sends a letter every month. He lives in Midland. He never visited the drive. He says, the drive is too far. The letters are short. He asks how you're doing. He mentions the weather in Midland. He mentions your younger sister's kids. He doesn't mention the brand or what you are now because he doesn't know and wouldn't understand, and the distance between his world and yours has become a kind of distance that geography can't explain. You write back. You tell him you're doing fine. You mention that the food here is worse than it sounds and better than you expected, which is not exactly true but is the kind of thing that fills a letter without saying anything. You mail it on a Tuesday. You think about him reading it on a Saturday morning over coffee in Midland, and you think about the distance between that kitchen and this cell, and you put the thought away the way you have learned to put thoughts away. Quickly. Without ceremony. That is the skill this place teaches above all others. Level 4, the soldier, released. Local name, street soldier, the brand on the outs. Age, 27. Income, $3,000 to $7,000 per week. Level 4. The street soldier. You walk out of Huntsville at 27. 3 days after your release, a man picks you up at the Extended Stay America in Houston where your parole placement put you. You have never met him, but you know immediately who he is from the tattoos and the way he holds the steering wheel and the specific quality of silence he maintains. His name is Decker. He runs the brand's Houston street operations. He drove 2 hours to get you because the brand takes care of its members on release, and because taking care of members on release is also good organizational practice. A man who comes out broke and alone is a liability. A man who comes out absorbed into structure is an asset. Decker explains the operation during the drive. The brand's street arm in Texas is primarily methamphetamine. Supply comes from Sinaloa-connected distributors in the Rio Grande Valley, the same cartel the brand's leadership publicly positions as an enemy and privately conducts business with because the meth market operates on chemistry and logistics, not ideology. This is one of the things the brand's lower ranks are not told directly. You are told directly because you are patched, and Decker respects the principle that men who carry risk should understand what they're carrying. You distribute to a network of 14 street-level dealers across 3 Houston zip codes. You collect weekly. You handle discipline when dealers are short or slow. You report to Decker. You make $3,000 to $7,000 a week depending on volume. You find an apartment in Spring Branch. You buy furniture at a thrift store. You buy a used Ford F-150 that is too nice for a man with no documented income, which your parole officer Hendricks notes in your file during your 3rd weekly meeting. He is not aggressive about it. He is making a record. You are aware he is making a record. You are aware of the DEA unit that monitors brand operations in the Houston metro. You are aware because Decker told you and because awareness is a survival skill. You meet a woman named Carla at a bar in Garden Oaks. She knows what the tattoos mean. She is from a world where knowing what the tattoos mean is simply part of knowing how the world works, and she has her own history with that world, and you understand each other in the particular way of people who have both been inside things that marked them. You stay careful. You rotate phones. You communicate with Decker through a system of face-to-face meetings at 2 locations that change on a schedule you memorize rather than write down. You do not discuss business on any device. But careful has limits. 17 months after your release, you are driving on the Southwest Freeway when 2 unmarked vehicles box you in. DEA and Houston PD Joint Task Force. They pull you out with guns drawn and your hands go up and you feel the specific exhaustion of a man whose math finally came due. They found a kilo in the apartment. A dealer you trusted who had been cooperating for 6 weeks told them where to look. New charges. Federal this time. Conspiracy to distribute. You already have a prior felony. You are looking at 15 years minimum. Back inside. The only difference is that you walk back in with a tattoo on your chest and men who nod when they see it. You're home, one of them says. Same as last time. It lands different this time. Heavier. Because this time you know exactly what it means. Last time you didn't know what home would cost. Now you do. And you came back anyway. That is the thing you have to live with. Level 5, the shot caller. Local name, shot caller, unit commander. Age, 34. Income, taxes all AB connected transactions on unit. Level 5. The shot caller. You're 34. Federal Correctional Institution, Beaumont, Texas. Medium security, which is its own kind of joke because the security that matters in here has nothing to do with the walls. You have been designated a shot caller. It happened the way these things happen in the brand, gradually and then suddenly. The previous shot caller on your unit was transferred to Lewisburg. Before he left he told the Commission's regional contact that you were ready. The regional contact told you. You nodded. That was the ceremony. You command 34 men. 11 full brand members, 23 associates and woods. You are responsible for their adherence to the brand's code, for the unit's revenue operations, and for its physical security. You report through a communication chain to regional leadership that extends through 3 other facilities to men you have never met. The operations you manage. Drugs. Methamphetamine arrives through 2 channels, a CO on the East Wing who takes $800 a month and a male technique you will not describe in writing because it still works. Heroin arrives through a more complex supply chain involving the unit's visitation room and a family member of a member named Cross who has been making the trip every 3 weeks for 4 years. Marijuana is low priority. The margins don't justify the smell. Debt and gambling. A poker economy runs every weekend. You tax it at 15%. Debts beyond 30 days are referred to you. You resolve them on a case-by-case basis. Most resolution is conversational. Some is not. Protection. Non-affiliated white inmates can purchase brand protection for a weekly commissary payment. The protection is genuine. You enforce it. A man who pays his protection and gets touched anyway is a failure of the system, and failures of the system cost you credibility, and credibility is the system. You also manage an intelligence operation. You need to know what happens on your unit before it happens. You have 3 men whose specific job is to know things, to be in conversations, to be present in spaces, to develop relationships with inmates from other groups in ways that yield information. You know about planned violence before it occurs. Twice this year you have prevented situations that would have triggered lockdowns, investigations, and the kind of institutional attention that is bad for business. The warden knows, in the way wardens know things, that you are responsible for a certain level of order. This creates an unspoken dynamic in which your continued presence on this unit serves interests beyond your own. You are not naive about what this means. You are being used. The institution is using your power to manage its own population. In exchange, you receive informal latitude, your cell is searched less creatively, your communications flagged less aggressively, your infractions noted and then filed somewhere slow. This dynamic has existed between prison authorities and gang leadership since prisons existed. Everybody pretends it doesn't. Everybody relies on it. Your father stopped writing 2 years ago. You don't know if he's sick or just finished. You asked your sister to check on him. She reported back that he's fine. She said fine in a way that meant, he's alive, I don't have more for you. You write him anyway. Every month. You've stopped asking him anything. You just describe your days in abstract terms that are technically accurate and convey almost nothing. The food. The weather as experienced through a window. A book you read. You mail it every month. The letters come back. Return to sender. Every month you mail it. Every month it comes back. You keep mailing it. You don't know why exactly. Some accounting you can't stop keeping. Some record you need to make even though no one is reading it. You mail it. It comes back. You mail it again. That's all. Level 6, the Commission. Local name, the Commission, National Leadership. Age, 43. Income, percentage of all brand operations nationally. Level 6. The Commission. Transfers, Beaumont to Pollock, Louisiana. Pollock to Terre Haute, Indiana. Terre Haute to Florence, Colorado. ADX Florence, the Supermax, for 18 months, then back to a USP in the system because SAMs were imposed and then lifted on a technicality and then reimposed and the whole process took 2 years of litigation and in the end you are at USP Lee, Virginia. 9 years. 5 facilities. Every transfer designed to interrupt your network. Every transfer resulting in a network rebuilt within 4 months. You are 43. You are on the Commission. There are 6 members currently. The number fluctuates, members die in prison, members are transferred to conditions that cut them off, members are flipped by federal investigators and have to be removed. Currently 6. You are inducted by the member who preceded you on the East Coast regional seat, a man named Galloway who had a stroke at 61 and whose cognitive decline had been managed for 2 years before the commission acknowledged it. You manage the brand's operations across the eastern seaboard from a cell in a maximum security federal prison. You have never physically visited most of the facilities in your territory. You know their unit structures, their shot callers, their revenue numbers, and their problems through a communication network that has been developed over decades. The network uses 3 channels. Attorneys. Attorney-client privilege is constitutionally protected. The brand maintains a roster of attorneys, defense lawyers who operate near the ethical edge, fully aware that certain information flows through certain conversations. The FBI has been trying to pierce this channel for 20 years. They have succeeded partially, twice, and both times the prosecution was thrown out on appeal. The channel remains functional. Visitors. Your approved visitor list is reviewed and approved by BOP. 3 people are currently approved. 2 are relatives. 1 is a woman you have known since before your second arrest who visits monthly and whose conversations with you are conducted in a referential code that has been evolving for 8 years. Monitoring agents have been assigned to decode these conversations. As far as you know, they have been partially successful. You adjust accordingly. Contraband phones. The most direct and most risky channel. Phones arrive through various means, drones, corrupt staff, internal smuggling networks. They are used briefly and destroyed. A call lasts under 4 minutes. You have a protocol for what each call can and cannot contain. Through these 3 channels you govern thousands of men and an organization that generates millions of dollars annually across drug distribution, extortion, prison economies, and increasingly, wire fraud and identity theft schemes operated by outside associates. You have not touched methamphetamine with your hands since you were 27. You have touched the lives of more people than you can count through decisions made in this cell. The commission meets, in a functional sense, through the communication network. Decisions of national significance, major violence, major alliances, responses to federal pressure, require consensus among sitting members. Consensus is achieved through the channels. It is slow. It is leaky. It is the only method that works at all. The FBI's Organized Crime Unit has 4 agents permanently assigned to brand leadership investigation. You have read the public portions of their testimony in congressional hearings. They describe the brand as the most dangerous domestic criminal organization currently operating in the American prison system. They describe the commission as its nerve center. They are correct on both points. You read their testimony and feel something you can't quite name. Not pride. Not fear. Something more like the feeling of being accurately described. Of being seen clearly, finally, without pretense, and having the description be terrible. You are exactly what they say you are. You have been exactly this for longer than you have been anything else. Level 7, the RICO defendant. Local name, Federal Defendant/RICO. Age, 50. Income, $0, seized and frozen. Level 7. The RICO defendant. The indictment comes on a Tuesday. Federal Grand Jury, Western District of Virginia. 23 defendants. 4 are commission members, including you. 12 are shot callers from facilities across 8 states. 7 are street-level operators whose cases are the foundation, the evidentiary base from which the prosecution climbs upward through the organization's hierarchy to reach you. The theory of the case is clean and it is devastating. The Aryan Brotherhood constitutes a criminal enterprise under 18 U.S.C. Section 1962. You are a senior leader of that enterprise. Under RICO, every act committed in furtherance of the enterprise is attributable to its leadership. The indictment attributes to you murders committed in facilities you have never entered, in years you were housed elsewhere, by men who received authorization through communication chains that passed through multiple intermediaries before reaching you. The prosecution does not need to prove you personally committed these acts. The prosecution needs to prove you led the organization that committed them. They have 4 cooperating witnesses. You learn their names through your attorney. 3 of them you know. 1 of them you promoted. 1 of them you went to bat for when there was a movement to have him removed from his position 2 years ago. You sit with that for a long time. Your attorney, federal public defender, overworked, genuinely competent, and honest in a way you did not expect and find unexpectedly affecting, tells you the evidentiary picture is the worst she has seen in 15 years of this work. The cooperators are credible. Their testimony is corroborated by financial records, intercepted communications, and testimony from lower-level members who cut deals years ago and whose debriefings produced a map of the organization detailed enough to teach from. She tells you, you need to think about whether there is anything you want to offer. She means cooperation. Becoming a cooperator. Testifying against co-defendants, against other commission members, against the structure you built and governed. You tell her no. She nods. She doesn't argue. She has known since the first meeting that this would be your answer. Men like you don't cooperate. It's not bravery. It's not stupidity. It's the specific logic of a life built on a code that has only one position on cooperation. You have ordered violence against cooperators. You cannot be one. The logic is circular and absolute. Trial begins in March and lasts 11 weeks. The cooperators testify for a combined 34 hours. They are methodical. They are specific. They use names and dates and facility codes and dollar amounts. They describe the Commission's decision-making process, its communication protocols, its hierarchy, its governance. They describe it accurately because they were inside it. They describe it with the calm precision of men who have made peace with what they are doing. You watch them from the defense table. You watch the one you promoted. He testifies for 9 hours over 2 days. He is careful and he is thorough and he does not look at you during his testimony. He is asked by the prosecutor to look at you and identify you. He looks at you then. Just for a moment. His expression has no triumph in it. That surprises you. You expected triumph or shame. What he has instead is something flatter and older and sadder than either. You recognize it. You have felt it yourself. When you were the one in the witness position, not the box, but the cell, hearing news of things you set in motion whose outcomes you didn't want but couldn't undo. The jury deliberates for 9 days. Guilty on all counts. You stand at sentencing and the judge reads for 40 minutes. She describes the scale of the organization. The violence. The decades. She is precise and she is not cruel but she is complete, and completeness is its own kind of cruelty because it requires you to hear all of it at once, assembled, without the fragmentation of experience that makes it possible to live inside while it is happening. Life without parole. Plus 40 years. She says, I want to note for the record that the defendant has had multiple opportunities at multiple junctures to step away from this path and has not taken them. She is not wrong. You have never, in the coherent memory of your adult life, been in a room where someone was not wrong about you. The judge is not wrong about you. You stand and you are led out and the door closes and the sound of it is a very ordinary sound that means a very permanent thing. Level 8, the end. Local name, ADX Florence, Special Administrative Measures. Age, 53. Income, $0. Level 8. The end. ADX Florence. The Supermax. Concrete and fluorescent and the sound of your own breathing. 23 hours a day in a cell that is 7 feet wide and 12 feet long. 1 hour of exercise in a room with a hole in the ceiling. No contact with other inmates. No congregate activities. No phone calls except the 2 monthly monitored calls permitted under your SAMs. No interviews. No communications that could conceivably be used to direct criminal activity. Special administrative measures. Applied by the Attorney General. Reviewed annually. Intended to be permanent. They made you a ghost while you're still alive. That is the design. The RICO conviction and the life sentence ended your body's freedom. The SAMs ended your voice. They are the legal instrument built specifically for people whose words, even from inside a box, constitute a national security threat. You are on a range with men convicted of international terrorism, mass murder, attacks on federal infrastructure. You are the domestic representative of something the government has decided is equivalently dangerous. You think about that sometimes. You think about a kid in Odessa, Texas, who needed $200 and a gas station clerk who hit a panic button. You think about the long chain of decisions between that night and this cell. Each link in the chain felt, in the moment, like the only available link. Each felt like response to circumstance rather than choice. You know now, with the clarity that only total isolation provides, that this is not true. That each link was a choice. That the choices were real. That real choices have real consequences. The consequences are, this cell, this silence, these walls. You are allowed books. You read more now than you have ever read in your life. History, mostly. You have become particularly interested in institutional history, the history of how organizations form, consolidate, collapse. How power accumulates and then overreaches and then falls. You read about Rome. You read about colonial enterprises. You read about every variety of human attempt to build something that outlasts its builders. They all end. You know this. You knew it before, in the abstract way of a man who is too inside something to see it fully. Now you know it the way of a man with nothing to do but think. The brand continues. You know this too. The RICO case removed 4 commission members. The commission reconstituted within a year. New men in the seats. The shot callers who cooperated have been replaced. The network has contracted in some areas and expanded in others. The brand has survived federal prosecution before and it will survive this one. You are not the brand. The brand was never you. You were a function it needed, filled competently, and replaced. That is the honest accounting. You think about your father. He is 74 now. Your sister sends you updates, brief ones, because your SAMs limit your communication to approved family members and she has remained on the list even though the visits stopped 3 years ago. He is in a care facility in Midland. Dementia, early stage. He recognizes her when she visits. He doesn't ask about you. Maybe he doesn't remember. Maybe that's a mercy for him and a specific kind of grief for you and the distinction doesn't matter because the outcome is the same. You mail him letters anyway. You've been doing it for years. He doesn't respond. Your SAMS-approved communication to him goes through a monitored channel and you know he almost certainly doesn't receive them directly but the contact system allows the attempt and so you make it. Every month. Return to sender. You mail it again. Somewhere right now, on a yard in Texas or California or Virginia, a 21-year-old man is standing in a corner of concrete that belongs to no one. Watching the geography of the place he's just been deposited into. Learning the rules nobody wrote down. A man with a tattoo on his neck is drifting past him. He's saying something. He's asking if the kid has people. And the kid is standing there calculating. Calculating what yes costs. Calculating what no costs. Not understanding yet that the calculating is already the answer. That the moment you start weighing the math of it, you've already decided what matters to you. And what matters to you is the same thing that mattered to you. Not money. Not ideology. Not power in any form you could have explained to anyone. Belonging. The oldest need. The most expensive one. The kid on the yard is going to say yes. You know this. You know this the way you know your own breathing in this cell. And somewhere in the brand's national structure, in a unit in a facility you've never seen, a shot caller is nodding. Welcome home. The walls are the world. They always were.